Part 23. Fantasy, Me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 221. The Demon Palace was destroyed. Like a hurricane, it swept across the land. All the creatures of all races in the 3,000 states were greatly shaken. Every power leader has a look of horror on his face. In the eyes of many top powers, the heavenly demon palace is nothing and they really want to destroy it. Not too difficult. Carrying an imperial weapon over there would always break open their mountain protecting formation. But what shocked them was that the person who took action was Ling Xiao. How could a person who was already mortal be resurrected? There must be a secret in this. Countless people are speculating on what deal Ling Xiao and the owner of Tianji reached. The most believable thing is that Ling Xiao handed over the emperor's scripture of the Holy Land of Light. Only an emperor's scripture can save the life of a quasi-emperor. And Ling Xiao seems to have only one emperor's sutra with the highest value. After the destruction of the Yaoguang Holy Land, the only ones who know the whereabouts of the emperor's sutras seem to be except the master Tianji and Ling Xiao himself. No third person knows any more. Among the Golden Crow clan, the contemporary leader of the Golden Crow clan is a man with a tall figure and a majestic aura. He looks in the direction of the heavenly demon palace with an inexplicable meaning in his eyes. Exactly the same. The Golden Crow clan chief murmured to himself. Father said exactly the same thing, what does it mean? The eldest prince of the Golden Crow was dressed in a golden robe, with golden light flowing all over his body, and a treasure glow escaping. His aura had reached its peak, and it seemed that he would break through at any time. How similar is the destruction of the heavenly demon palace to the destruction of the shaking light holy land? The leader of the Golden Crow clan murmured. Father is saying that Ling Xiao may have paid a huge price, not only to save his own life, but also to gain a way to crack the heavenly demon palace's mountain protecting formation. The Golden Crow eldest prince frowned and said, "Good." The Golden Crow clan leader turned around, looked up at the sky, and murmured, how mysterious is a sex method of breaking the formation? The owner of Tianji actually figured it out easily. The Golden Crow clan, can this emperor-level formation also block their calculations? I am afraid. The eldest prince Jinwu pursed his lips and said only 2 words, but did not say the rest. The Yaoguang Holy Land also had great emperors in the past. Their formations were also at the emperor level. Wasn't it still possible for Meng Qingzi of the 9 Nether Demon sect to step into it without any hindrance? This can prove that the emperor-level formation is really not worth mentioning in the eyes of the owner of Tianji. Tianji Tower. The leader of the Golden Crow clan uttered 4 words, his tone filled with respect and fear. Respect, because the owner of Tianji Tower is the only great emperor in the current world, and his existence makes countless people feel at ease. Even if the great emperor from the blood demon realm came to kill him, no one would be worried. Fear is because the biggest trump card of the family is in the hands of the owner of Tianji. No one can feel safe when a quasi-emperor suddenly lands in the mountain gate. That kind of power can be said to be devastating to the world. What if it were replaced by a great emperor? Even though they are stronger than the Golden Crow clan, they are only cool when facing the Tianji Tower. It can be said. Nowadays, the Tianji Tower has surpassed all forces. With the deterrence of a great emperor, no one dares to act rashly. The information in the Tianji building is valuable, and the senior owner of the Tianji building does not seem to have released any methods to crack the sex formation at will. The eldest prince of the Golden Crow pondered and said, if you think about it, if you want to buy a method to crack the sex formation, any force will have to pay a high price. How could I not know this? The leader of the Golden Crow clan shook his head and said, but, there are always people who can afford it. And for countless years, my Golden Crow clan has made many enemies. There is no guarantee that someone will not have other ideas, such as the Imperial clan among the human clan. What does the father plan to do? The Golden Crow eldest prince asked. No one would have this idea to deal with Tianji Tower, no one would even think about it. Who can guarantee that when he has this idea, does the owner of Tianji Tower know about it? What if I haven't yet take action, the owner of Tianji has already taken action from a distance. A great emperor. With one palm shot, no one can escape. Let a great sage ancestor go to Dawang City to take charge. The leader of the Golden Crow clan sighed softly and said quietly. Nowadays, everyone has learned to be smart. Before entering the Tianji Tower, everyone is covered with divine light, blocking their original appearance so that outsiders cannot see clearly. The original spies can no longer keep up. They can't even figure out who has entered the Tianji Tower, and no one knows whether their Sex Mountain protecting formation has been bought up. Only by letting a great sage pass, can the Golden Crow clan rest assured some. In this way, no matter who they are, their true identity will be seen before they step into the Tianji Tower. If any hostile force enters the Tianji Tower, they can deal with it calmly. In this case, Dawang City, probably the most terrifying city in the world. The Golden Crow eldest prince murmured. Always. The leader of the Golden Crow clan said angrily. When the Golden Crow clan started to take action, other major forces were also idle. They had to keep an eye on others if they didn't want to buy things. Let's see who dares to be the third one to eat crabs. Originally, Ling Xiao bought the method to break the mountain guard formation of the Heavenly Demon Palace, which was regarded as causing public outrage. But then, everyone thought about it, Ling Xiao wanted to take revenge, and it was reasonable. There was no need for such a thing. Things are getting better. More importantly, Ling Xiao is the quasi-emperor. But if there are still people playing like this, I'm sorry, let's destroy the forces behind you first. The deserted city. Li Yun stood in the Tianji Tower, looking at the outside scene. These past few days, in the desert city, there were suddenly many powerful auras. Among them were many saint kings or great sages. The masters of each aura were extremely respectful to the Tianji Tower. But they are somewhat hostile to each other. But due to the reputation of Tianji Tower, everyone was very restrained and did not dare to show it too obviously. They don't have the courage to play some tricks under the nose of a great emperor. Is it the disturbance caused by Ling Xiao? Li Yun said softly. 2 huge sects were destroyed in a row, and his figure stood behind each one. If these people didn't do anything, then there was something wrong. So many strong people gathered in Dawang City. It's true. It saved him a lot of things. It can be foreseen that every list of Tianji Tower will be spread throughout the world immediately. Originally, the land was filled with saints, and the Holy Lord was no better than a dog. But now in the great desert city, the land is probably filled with great saints, and the Lord of Saints is no better than a dog. Li Yun murmured. Instead, you should think about what the next list will be. Li Yun turned around and walked towards the building. Just as he sat down, before filling a cup of tea, 2 figures walked in from outside the door. Deluo Sword Sect Lu Changhe and Ren Qingtu have met the senior poster. 2 figures, one behind the other, walked in. Lu Changhe. Li Yun raised his eyes and looked at the visitor. Lu Changhe, who was still the Saint King before, has now become a great saint. His cultivation should have just stabilized, so he came to Dawang City. Ren Qingtu stayed in Dawang City. For such a period of time, he thought that Ren Qingtu would not come to Tianji Tower. Unexpectedly, he was waiting for Lu Changhe. Deluo Sword Sect used a great sage to come forward, and the news of this purchase should be very valuable. He glanced at the 2 people's panels. Li Yun smiled. It was just as he expected. Deluo Sword Sect was going to spend a lot of money. Sit down. Li Yun gestured to the chair next to him and said softly. Thank you, senior. The two of them were very reserved. They only sat half a chair, their bodies as straight as javelins, and they were meticulous. Facing a great emperor, even a normal person would panic. Not to mention an emperor who has lived for who knows how many years. Before coming, Lu Changhe also read through his sex classics, but also did not find any information about the master of Tianji, so he also suspected that the senior master of Tianji might have revealed far more strength than this. After all, take action. Even with the strength of the great emperor, who can guarantee that this person's cultivation level will definitely make him the great emperor? There is also a higher possibility. Don't be cautious, the meaning of the existence of Tianji Tower has always been on the word Tianji. Li will not take action against anyone easily. Li Yunfan said lightly. That's what the senior said. Lu Changhe handed over his hand. Not only did he not relax at all, but he became more reserved. The senior only said that he would not take action easily, but he did not say that he would not take action. If you really make the senior anxious, no one can tell what will happen. I already know your purpose of coming. Let's talk about the price the Luo sword sect can pay. Li Yun picked up the teacup, took a sip, and said softly. Well. Lu Changhe laughed dryly, and instead of responding hastily, he handed over his hand. Ask Junior, I have something to ask my senior. Is it convenient for my senior to answer? Oh. Li Yun raised his head, looked at Lu Changhe, and said with a half smile, you want to ask about the Yaoguang Holy Land and the Heavenly Demon Palace. Don't you already have the answer in your heart? Nothing can be hidden from the seniors. Lu Changhe's expression did not change, and he secretly thought in his heart. Sure enough, the senior poster can indeed figure out how to crack each sex formation. In this way, any force, in the eyes of the senior poster, seems to be defenseless. He wants to go wherever, no one can stop him. Lu Changhe calmed down, cupped his hands again and said that the junior would like to ask the senior, if you want to buy the method to crack the mountain protecting formation of our Luo sword sect, what price will you have to pay? These words were asked. Lu Changhe didn't really want to buy, but wanted to be aware of it. Knowing the value of his own sect, he could consider the cost of other sects' cracking methods. This news is not a secret, so it doesn't hurt to tell you. Li Yun put down the teacup and said slowly, if you want to break through any sect's mountain protecting formation, you need an item of the same level. The people who bought this news are already Ling Xiao and Meng Qingzi. Sooner or later this matter will be hidden. There is no harm in telling them the Luo sword sect first. Same level. Lu Changhe and Ren Qingtu looked at each other. A sense of surprise flashed in their hearts, and it was exactly what they thought. The mountain protecting formation of their Luo sword sect was set up by a quasi-emperor, who wanted to gain great power. Luo Jianzong's method of breaking the formation requires at least one quasi-imperial weapon. There are not many forces that can pay such a price. Senior, as far as the junior knows, the Nine Nether Demon sect did not seem to have any emperor-level items before. How did they buy the method to crack the mountain protecting formation of the Shaking Light Holy Land? Ren Qingtu frowned, as if he didn't understand. An emperor-level item must be something of relatively high value. A piece of material for refining an emperor's weapon is definitely not enough. It must at least be an emperor's weapon, or an emperor's weapon. Sutra. Or even an emperor-level elixir. But can the Nine Nether Demon sect come up with these three things? It's probably unlikely. Want to know? Li Yun's expression remained unchanged, and he stretched out one hand and said, the price paid by the Juyu Demon sect is beyond your imagination. If you want to know the details, can you come up with a great saint-level item? Ren Qingtu. Lu Changhe. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 222. Great Saint level items. Lu Changhe was speechless. I just want to ask how much the Juyu demon sect paid. This news has no value to their Deluo sword sect. Just out of curiosity. Just out of curiosity, I have to take out such a valuable thing. To be honest. Not only him, but also Ren Qingtu was heartbroken. Immediately, Lu Changhe gave up his curiosity. Although I don't know the specific information, I can guess that the Juyu demon sect is bleeding heavily. Maybe a lot of quasi-emperor level items were handed over. Probably no less than 2 or 3 pieces. After paying such a high price, the 9 Nether demon sect obtained countless secrets of the Shaking Light Holy Land, which made up for its previous losses. He even took away the Emperor's armament of the Shaking Light Holy Land. I don't know what price we should pay for the news that our Deluo sword sect also bought an imperial weapon. Lu Changhe's heart was burning. Buying the whereabouts of an imperial weapon was their goal. Because, as their old enemy, the 9 Nether demon sect was too powerful. The quasi-emperor's ancestor was not dead, and he also got an imperial weapon. The strength has been greatly strengthened. When Menkingzi recovers from his injuries, no one knows whether they will be able to hold back their ambitions. The two sects live next to each other. It can be said that the Deluo sword sect is in trouble, without a single weapon in its hand. An imperial soldier has no confidence at all facing the 9 Nether demon sect. Lu Changhe touched his storage ring and asked softly. Senior, without becoming enemies with other sects, are there any imperial soldiers who are living outside? Of course there is. Li Yun said softly. Countless years have passed, and no one can tell how many great emperors have been born in this world. Some of the emperor's soldiers have been destroyed in the battles between the great emperors. Some, as major holy places, or various races, the heritage of the emperor has been passed down. There are also some great emperors who have pursued the path of being the most powerful all their lives and left no heirs. Only in their later years did they suddenly wake up, with no choice but to carry their lifelong inheritance into the tomb. This kind of tomb, it is not only the tomb of the great emperor, but also a kind of inheritance. Any sect that obtains it can inherit everything of the great emperor, but the prerequisite is that it can pass the test of a great emperor. If it fails, the only way left for them is death. That's great. Lu Changhe took off the storage ring on his hand without any hesitation, handed it to Li Yun, and said respectfully, Senior, can you point out a clear path for me, the great Luo sword sect? Li Yun took the ring and glanced at it casually. 1 quasi-emperor level killing formation diagram, 1 quasi-emperor level exercise, 3 great saint level elixirs, 2 great saint level exercises, 3 great saint level magical powers. 2 quasi-emperor level items and 8 great sage level items should be the most valuable things that Deluo sword sect can produce. I have to say, these things are very valuable. But in terms of value, it's still a little bit worse. After all, their request is not from other sects. If the Deluo sword sect is willing to go to war with other sects, all it takes is to come up with a method to crack the sect, and that would be enough. Pity. The great Luo sword sect chose to conserve its strength and did not want to fight with other forces. If it wanted to be safe and sound, it would be a waste to pick up an imperial weapon. How could it be such a good thing? Juyu demon sect can have imperial soldiers. But they were all snatched by Menkingzi with his life. After robbing the imperial soldier, he still had to resist Ling Xiao's revenge. He paid such a high price to obtain an imperial soldier. Now what the great Luo sword sect has paid is of similar value to what Menkingzi has taken out. It is impossible to obtain the imperial arms just like this. These things cannot be exchanged for an imperial weapon. Li Yun shook his head slightly and said, not enough. Lu Changhe was stunned. For a moment, he did not come back to his senses. He paid such a high price, but it was not enough for the news of an imperial weapon. Then how much price did Menkingzi pay? Li knows that your Deludo sword sect has reached its limit, and it is not easy to be able to come up with so many things. Li Yun said slowly. If he increases the price, Deludo sword sect will have no choice but to go home. They can't afford anything of greater value. Could it be that seniors have other room for maneuver? Lu Changhe was shocked. Ren Qingtu, who was next to him, also became energetic after hearing this, and looked at Li Yun without blinking. Good. Li Yun nodded, paused for a moment, and continued the news about the complete imperial soldiers. These things are not valuable enough, but if they are incomplete imperial soldiers, they are enough. Incomplete. Lu Changhe's heart felt cold, but he still held on to some hope and asked in a low voice, "May I ask, Senior, how incomplete is it?" The power of the imperial weapon is infinite, and even if it is damaged, it is still an imperial weapon. As long as it doesn't become fragments, it can still shock countless people if you hold it in your hands. It probably still has 7 or 8 points of power. Li Yun said in a deep voice. In front of him, a light blue screen floated. A message was displayed on it. Immortal Burial Battlefield, 800,000 secret points are required, please check for specific information. This is the opportunity that he found after seeing the price paid by Deludo Jian sect and searching for the incomplete imperial soldiers. He already understood it when he saw the word battlefield. There must have been a fight between two great emperors here before. One of them may have died, and even the imperial soldiers were almost destroyed. Is it 70% or 80% powerful? Lu Changhe thought for a moment, and a look of seriousness appeared on his face since the senior said so. Then our Deludo sword sect will buy this news. 7 or 8 points of power is better than nothing. Even if they encounter the complete imperial army, they still have the strength to fight. Facing the 9 Nether Demon sect, they can be more calm and don't have to worry about being destroyed. Li Yun snorted and asked in his mind system, how many secret points are needed to find a safe route to obtain the incomplete imperial soldiers in the Immortal Burial Battlefield? Ding. A safe route in the Immortal Burial Battlefield requires 390,000 secret points. 390,000 secret points. Li Yun frowned. It was exactly what he thought. This Immortal Burial Battlefield is not simple. If he remembered correctly, the original cost of buying a route for the Emperor-level formation of the light-shaking Holy Land was only 450,000 TNG. It's just points. Comparing it horizontally, the difference between the two is not big. Doesn't it mean that there is an Emperor-level formation in the Immortal Burial Battlefield? But such a terrifying formation, plus an incomplete Emperor's weapon, is only worth 800,000 secret points. You have to know that the complete Shaking Light Holy Land is worth more than 2 million secret points. Impossible, the value of a battlefield is only worth this little. Could it be said that the battlefield has been cleaned? But if it was after cleaning, how could there be an incomplete imperial weapon left? After thinking about it for a while, Li Yun simply stopped thinking about it and said in his heart system, check for a safe route to the Immortal Burial Battlefield. Ding. Deduct 390,000 secret points, the query is successful, and you enter the safe route of the Burial Immortal Battlefield. The following is sent to the system space. 390,000. After Li Yun's heart ached for a second, a jade slip appeared in his hand and was thrown into Lu Changhe's hand. He said lightly, this is a safe route. Follow this road and I will keep you safe. Thank you, Senior. Lu Changhe took the jade slip, penetrated it with his spiritual consciousness, and took a look. Then, his expression became strange. Chaotic Sea Area. The prestige of this place can be said to be unknown to everyone in this world. For countless years, a quasi-emperor or great emperor has stepped into it. It can be said that there are very few people who can return. No people from the young and powerful forces all understand that the chaotic Star Sea does not belong to this world at all. This was originally a big world, but it has been completely destroyed. With the area of the chaotic star sea, in its heyday, its glory may not be weaker than the world they are in now. Lu Changhe never expected that the opportunity pointed out by his senior would actually be in that kind of place. Was he trying to make it impossible for him to go back? Rest assured. Li Yun glanced at Lu Changhe and said calmly, as long as you enter the Chaos Star Sea and don't wander around, I guarantee that you will come back. With the words of the senior, the junior felt relieved. Lu Changhe slightly cupped his hands. He looked at the jade slip again, and after confirming that there was indeed a route to the Chaos Star Sea, he felt a lot more relaxed. Even the Chaos Star Sea, that kind of mysterious place. Seniors can calculate the route. This method may have surpassed the great emperors of the past. After all, after so many great emperors went in, some people eventually came out. But even those great emperors who came out did not see anyone leaving a route, and every time everyone who came out seemed to be very secretive and unwilling to say more. As for Ling Xiao being able to come out, many people are more inclined to believe that he didn't go far deep and had been hanging around the periphery. How else to explain it? Not long after the destruction of the shaking light Holy Land, Ling Xiao returned from the Sea of Chaotic Stars. Senior. Lu Changhe stood up, bowed, and said in a deep voice, it's a long journey in the Chaos Star Sea. It's inconvenient for me to delay, so I'll take my leave today. Not sent. Li Yun nodded. Step out of the Tianji Tower. Before Lu Changhe could speak, Ren Qingtu couldn't help it anymore. Ancestor, are you really going to enter the Sea of Chaotic Stars? Two great saints from the Logo Sword sect had just appeared. Before they could hold their hands, one of them entered the Sea of Chaotic Stars. Among them the variables are too high. Not that he thought the news from Tianji Tower was false. It's because the level of danger in the Chaotic Star Sea is too high. Some dangers are not something you won't encounter if you don't provoke them, just in case an accident happens. If Lu Changhe deviated even slightly from his route, he would never be able to get out. In the Sea of Chaotic Stars, spiritual consciousness is useless at all, and there is darkness everywhere. Even the emperor will lose his way home, let alone a great saint. For the future of the Logo Sword sect, I have to take a gamble after all. Lu Changhe sighed and said in a deep voice, without the protection of an imperial weapon, once the Nine Nether Demon sect has a different intention, even if they don't have a way to break the formation, we still can't stop them. But if there is an imperial weapon, the future fate of the Logo Sword sect can be controlled in one's own hands. As he said that, Lu Changhe clenched the jade slip in his hand. This was the news they had spent most of their knowledge in exchange for. Whether the great Logo Sword sect could rise or not depended on this small jade slip. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 223. Lu Changhe came out. In Dawang City, many people looked over with curiosity when they saw Lu Changhe coming out of the Tianji Tower. Everyone wanted to know what the Logo Sword sect had bought. But in Dawang City among them, no one dared to go up and ask. Is the Logo Sword sect also starting to make plans? Many great sages sighed in their hearts. With the strength of the great Logo Sword sect, if it were to buy an ordinary opportunity, it would definitely not be Lu Changhe. Since Lu Changhe is here, it means that the great Logo Sword sect attaches great importance to this opportunity. They probably paid a huge price, and what they bought must be extraordinary. Lu Changhe has left Dawang City. Judging from the direction he left, it seems that he did not return to the Logo Sword sect, but went to another place. Do you want to follow him and take a look? Someone suggested. Go to the Tianji Tower yourself and pay too much for buying information. Among the forces present, many sects have sent people to the Tianji Tower. Instead of spending money to buy one, it is better to grab one. It will be more cost-effective after all. The owner of Tianji Tower does not seem to have prohibited this. The buying and selling news is Tianji Tower's business. Whether you can keep the news after buying it is your own business. I think with the strength of Tianji Tower's emperor level, he should not interfere. The following are all conflict of forces. This. There was a look of deep thought on someone's face. There were also people who, without saying a word, calmed down their aura and followed Lu Changhe from a distance, wanting to see where he was going. What if Lu Changhe really got a secret realm? That would be embarrassing. Even if you have no choice but to do something, it was like creating a secret realm before. Even the Ye imperial clan cannot occupy a secret realm by itself. How can you, the Great Luo Sword Sect, occupy one privately? A group of people who are blinded by profit. If the news about Tianji Tower is so easy to be snatched away, can it still be sold at such a high price? A great sage said with a sneer. Let's not talk about Lu Changhe's strength. Let's talk about where Lu Changhe is going. These people don't know where Lu Changhe is going. If they follow them rashly, how can Lu Changhe not be alert? Relying on the news from Tianji Tower, Lu Changhe can easily lead everyone to death. But he himself, relying on the guidance of the senior poster, will be safe and sound. Just when many people were thinking about their own thoughts, outside the Wang city, a middle-aged man strode over. His pace was very slow, but his speed was extremely fast. He was covered in blood and carried a strong evil aura. Many people retreated away as soon as they saw him. Ling Xiao. A great sage uttered two words. His face was extremely solemn. A quasi-emperor who had just destroyed the heavenly demon palace, what did he come to Dawang City, or to Tianji Tower, for? Is it possible? Regardless of his injuries, he wanted to attack by force. A Juyu demon sect? After the experience of the heavenly demon palace, no one now thinks that Ling Xiao has nothing. The current Ling Xiao has the entire secret of the heavenly demon palace in his hands. If he starts to attack, let alone Juyu demon section, the method to crack the Yamo Sex mountain protecting formation. Even the Scarlet Flame Holy Land might be able to break into it. In the deserted city, in an elegant courtyard, an old man in black looked tense, and his old face turned pale in an instant. Yes, he comes from the Nine Nether Demon sect. The first time he saw Ling Xiao, a bad feeling arose in his heart. His ancestor was still recovering from his injuries. At this time, Ling Xiao, although he might also be injured, but he is obviously much lighter than Meng Qingzi. If he really wants to take action against the Nine Nether Demon sect, the Nine Nether Demon sect, really cannot stop him. What to do? A layer of cold sweat broke out on the old man's forehead. He watched helplessly as Ling Xiao walked into the Tianji Tower step by step, but there was nothing he could do. In the Tianji Tower, Li Yun had just sent Lu Changhe away. Not long ago. Ling Xiao walked in. Li Yun's eyes lit up. During this period, Tianji Tower's business has obviously improved a lot. It had been a long time since anyone came here, and he would have been brutally beaten if anyone came. But now every now and then, someone comes. Moreover, they are all big customers. Extremely generous. Should we consider small profits but quick turnover? Li Yun thought in his mind. As soon as this idea appeared, he dismissed it. This secret is not an ordinary item. Every piece of news can affect the life and death of a section. It seems that he does not need to reduce the price. On the contrary, the more expensive it is, the more these people value it. Ling Xiao pays homage to his senior. Stepping into Tianji Tower, Ling Xiao saluted respectfully. Li Yun nodded and said straight to the point, come here for the opportunity to become emperor. Before Ling Xiao went to the heavenly demon palace, he mentioned it casually. Unexpectedly, Ling Xiao kept it in mind. He had just destroyed the heavenly demon palace. He rushed back without stopping. After glancing at Ling Xiao's system panel, he could clearly see I saw that his injuries were extremely serious, but he had been suppressing them all the time. First he fought against the Scarlet Flame Holy Land, then he had a decisive battle with Menkingzi, he was slapped in the face by himself, and he even went to the heavenly demon palace. Record. To be honest, if it were another quasi-emperor, he would have fallen 3 or 4 times now. Good. Ling Xiao nodded, with a very reserved look on his face. He asked cautiously what the senior said before, is it still true? Li always practices what he says and will not lie to you. Li Yun interrupted him. He still hopes to see Ling Xiao become emperor. After all, it is an extremely important chess piece in his hands in the recent period. As long as you can afford it? Li Yun added. Yes, although they are chess pieces, you have to pay for the news yourself. He doesn't need to create a force by himself, nor does he have any plans to unify the world. There is no need to spend his own money to help someone improve his strength. Because nowadays, he himself doesn't have enough TNG points. Even the juniors don't know if these are enough. Ling Xiao raised his hand and took off 10 storage rings from his hands, looking like a nouveau riche. Storage rings cannot be nested infinitely, they can only stay on your hands. Each of these 10 storage rings has a lot of space. It is filled with millions of years of the Demon Palace's heritage, including countless magical materials, spiritual stones, elixirs, and magical secrets. The end. Ling Xiao took out another quasi-imperial weapon, placed it in front of Li Yun, and said, "This is the teaching weapon of the Heavenly Demon Palace. It was left behind by the ancestors of the Heavenly Demon Palace in the past. It is very powerful. I wonder how much it is worth in the eyes of the seniors." Correct. Ling Xiao seemed to have thought of something, and took out another jade slip, saying this is the Tianmo Palace's teaching technique. It can be practiced to the peak of the quasi-emperor. System, how many TNG points are these things worth? Li Yun asked in his heart. Ding. After system statistics, all items totaled 1,495,000 secret points. 1.49 million. Li Yun clicked his tongue. This is a huge amount of money. It's a pity that the mountain guarding formation from the Demon Palace was not moved over. If the formation were moved over, at least it would be able to add a lot more. Check the system and find out the chance for Ling Xiao to become emperor. Li Yun said again in his heart. Undead Island, 8 million secret points are required, and the specific location can be found. Everlasting City, 8 million secret points are required, and the specific location can be found. The place where Emperor Zhangfeng transformed into the Dao, 1.3 million TNG points are required. You can check the specific location. Systems, just 3. Li Yun flipped through it carefully, and after confirming that there was nothing behind it, he said in disbelief. In the past, when the system inquired about any news, it would check a lot of them. This is the first time that there are only 3 messages. Could it be that the system is there anything I can't find? Ding, reporting back to the host, there are only 3 places in this world that agree with Ling Xiao's conditions for becoming emperor. Does the host authorize you to explore the opportunities in all the worlds? Whether. Don't check it yet. Li Yun has chosen. The world is too vast. In this world, the quasi-emperor may be very strong, but in other worlds, this may not be the case. What if in other worlds, the quasi-emperor is just starting out? Or the immortal emperor, a world where immortal kings are everywhere. Let's not say whether Ling Xiao can go to this kind of place. Even if he points out the opportunity, he may not be able to get it. Such a world is really too dangerous. Ling Xiao goes yes, they will definitely die. No matter which world they are in, they are hostile to the creatures from other worlds. For example, the current world is very hostile to the blood elf world. Who wants to have more people in their own world? Other forces. If others come, they will definitely grab the territory, which means that their own power will shrink, and there is no room for reconciliation between the two. News from all the worlds is not needed now. When will it be used in the future? Just check it again sometime. The place where Emperor Zhangfen transformed into the Dao. Li Yun pondered for a moment. These messages are too expensive, each one easily starts with millions of secret points, but this one seems to be many times worse, a bit ridiculously cheap. But even with this opportunity, it seems that if I sell it to Ling Xiao, I won't make any profit. Li Yun pouted, glanced at Ling Xiao, shook his head slightly, and said the opportunity to become an emperor is not trivial. You should understand what the word great emperor means to this world. A great emperor, who is supreme throughout the ages, can conquer 3,000 states and establish an immortal Taoism. Countless years later, there will still be people praising your true name. The details of the heavenly demon palace you presented this time are still a bit lacking. This. Ling Xiao was speechless upon hearing this. He knew that the emperor's opportunity must be extremely precious, but he didn't expect it to be so expensive. All the things of a large sect have been given to the seniors, but it is still not enough. How much does it cost to become an emperor? In the history of the heavenly demon palace, no great emperor has ever been born. Their background is far inferior to that of other imperial clans. It is impossible to expect these things to become an emperor. Don't forget that after you become emperor, the imperial scriptures and imperial arms in your hands can be passed on as heritage, and you can even rebuild the shaking light holy land. Li Yun said meaningfully. Hearing these words, Ling Xiao's eyes lit up. Emperor's scripture and emperor's arms. The imperial soldiers of the Yaoguang Holy Land are gone, but I still have a Yaoguang Emperor Sutra in my hand. Although handing over the Yaoguang Emperor Sutra of the Yaoguang Holy Land is a bit suspected of deceiving the master and destroying the ancestors, as long as I become the emperor, I can return to it again. Didn't the Yaoguang Holy Land already have 2 imperial scriptures when it was established? Besides, giving the imperial scriptures to the seniors does not count as outflow. It's not like they were snatched away by other forces. Thinking about it this way, it seems that I am still the Holy Land of Shaking Light. The master of Zete in history. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 224. Senior. Ling Xiao made up his mind and no longer hesitated. He turned his palm and an ancient book appeared in his palm, with thousands of rays of light flowing on it. It seems to contain the ultimate truth of heaven and earth, which makes people feel shocked. On the cover of the ancient book, 4 big characters stand out. Yaoguang Emperor Sutra. With the addition of this imperial scripture, is it valuable enough? Ling Xiao asked. Enough. Li Yun raised his palm and took the Yaoguang Emperor Sutra into his hand. After flipping through it, he remembered the content in his heart and said in his heart. System, check the place where Emperor Zhangfen transformed into a Dao. Ding. After deducting 1.3 million TNG points, the search for the place where Emperor Zhangfen transformed into the Dao was successful. The place where Emperor Zhangfen transformed into the Dao is located in the Chaos Star Sea, 30,000 miles east of the Immortal Burial Battlefield. In the past, Emperor Zhangfen had a decisive battle with an emperor from another world, and was eventually seriously injured and died. He chose to become a Taoist after death, leaving a chance for future generations. The system reminds that the place where Emperor Zhangfen transformed into a Tao is a portal to another world. If the aura of Emperor Zhangfen disappears, the portal will lose its suppressive power. By then, there will be alien beings coming across the border. Li Yun. Just now he was wondering why this opportunity was so cheap. It turns out that this is the problem. Taking a chance means attracting creatures from another world. For such a serious matter, whoever provokes it will naturally handle it. After Ling Xiao became emperor, his first priority was, it must be to block the creatures of another world. If he lets it go, it can be expected that he will become a sinner in the current world. Immortal burial battlefield. Li Yun saw four more familiar words. This moment, he understood it all. The place where Emperor Zhang Fen transformed into a Taoist is right next to the immortal burial battlefield. The two are 30,000 miles apart, which is really too close. Maybe. The piece of news that the Deluo sword sect bought was the broken imperial weapon, which was the imperial weapon left behind by Emperor Zhang Fen. No wonder the value is so low. The emotional Deluo sword sect may be liquidated by beings from other worlds after taking that imperial weapon. In this way, the news is indeed devalued. Moreover, he suspected that the immortal burial battlefield actually included the place where Emperor Zhang Fen transformed into a Taoist. It was so close. He didn't know why the system divided it into two opportunities. The emergence of a new world is not a good thing for this world, but it may be a good thing for Tianji Tower. Li Yun murmured. They can fight casually, and he only needs to sell the information. Even if there is no such thing as Ling Xiao, when he notices the immortal burial battlefield, he will find a way to sell this information to someone. Power. System, how powerful is this world? Li Yun asked in his heart. Reporting back to the host, it is slightly stronger than the current world, but this world is on the rise, while the other world has entered its glorious years. Is it? Li Yun's eyes opened and closed. The world he was in had many great emperors coexisting in history, and the other world was a little stronger than this world. The system also said that that world was in its glorious years. This shows. In that world, there may be a great emperor, and there may be more than one. This is interesting. Li Yun raised his palm, and a jade slip appeared in his palm. The opportunity has been checked, and it is impossible to check the second one. What will be the result next, he cannot predict. Maybe the world will be flattened. Maybe there will be several great emperors popping up and pushing another world. This is the opportunity you want to become an emperor. Li Yun threw the jade slip out and continued. Behind this opportunity, there is a portal to another world. You'd better treat it carefully. Another world? Ling Xiao took the jade slip and said with a solemn expression. The senior asked the junior to treat it with caution, but are there other great emperors in another world? Good. Li Yun nodded and said the place where you become emperor is right next to the portal. If a great emperor comes across the border, your end will be worrying. Just after he became emperor, he met an emperor who was waiting for work. Needless to say what the outcome will be. Junior, thank you senior for reminding me. Ling Xiao bowed his hands in salute. He was not surprised by the news about the other world. There are countless great emperors in history who have destroyed other worlds, and they have been invaded by other worlds many times. Right now, there is a world of blood monsters, watching with eager eyes. One more one is nothing at all. The juniors took their leave first. Ling Xiao cupped his hands and said, Li Yun nodded. After walking out of Tianji Tower, Ling Xiao glanced at the jade slip in his hand and murmured, chaotic star sea area. Sure enough, my chance to become emperor is right here. As soon as the words fell, Ling Xiao's figure walked to the gate of Dawang City. He raised his hand and grabbed it. The space cracked, and a space crack appeared. A black hole, extremely deep. Ling Xiao raised his foot and stepped into it, and the figure disappeared instantly. In place. Zixuan Realm. Zhentian Ancient City. This is a majestic ancient city with a population of hundreds of millions. All the people in the city are soldiers. There is no ordinary person, and the lowest strength is in the vitality realm. Look from afar. The ancient city of Gentian is like a wild giant beast, crawling on the ground, covering thousands of miles, boundless. The city walls made of divine gold are covered with mysterious symbols on the surface, like stars, blooming with brilliance. Now, in the center of the city, there is a dark area, like dark clouds. They are countless soldiers, with vitality and blood like dragons, and the evil energy emitted is condensed together. It was like a volcano erupting, piercing the sky. In colorful feathers flow, magic wings cover the sky, and scales flicker. All kinds of terrifying and powerful creatures stood in the void, completely blocking the surrounding void. The depressing atmosphere made people almost breathless. They stood around a jade platform, their eyes burning. Everyone is looking at the jade platform. More than 50 million years have passed. On the jade platform, a creature with wings on his back, black hair like a waterfall, and a yaksha-like appearance stood with his hands behind his back. He looked at a space crack in front of him with a complex expression. Good. Next to the yaksha creature, an ancient dragon chariot was parked in mid-air. It was only 2 feet tall, less than half the height of an ordinary person. There was a luminous creature sitting inside. Although he was very short, he exuded the breath makes people tremble. More than 50 million years have passed, and we still have not been able to fulfill the legacy of our ancestors. The Tianyuan realm is not weak, and there is also a great emperor in it. Its hidden strength is not inferior to our Zixuan realm. If the two realms really go to war, the outcome is hard to say. Yaksha creature said in a deep voice. Ah! The creature in the dragon chariot smiled coldly and said, according to ancient books, in the Tianyuan world, all races stand side by side and attack each other. Everyone is extremely cruel, and their hands are stained with blood, which means that they will destroy the whole world. It is indeed necessary to massacre. In the past, a powerful emperor crossed the boundary and entered the Tianyuan realm. He was just looking for a way, and was blocked by a Tianyuan realm emperor. If it hadn't been for the sneak attack by the Lashiza Zhangfeng emperor, our emperor would not have returned seriously injured. And then died. The emperor has such a psyche, which shows how ordinary creatures are like. After the yaksha creature was silent for a moment, he slowly said, ancient books cannot be trusted. But if even an ancient book written by a great emperor cannot be trusted, then we have nothing to trust. The creature in the dragon chariot retorted. No matter what the facts were back then, it was a fact that a great emperor fell because of this. The yaksha creature did not continue to argue. He turned around, looked at the crack in space in front of him, and said slowly. The ancient city of Gentian was established for hundreds of millions of years, with the original intention of guarding the Tianyuan realm to prevent the opponent's powerful emperor from crossing the border. But now that countless years have passed, it seems that the opponent has completely forgotten this place. If they don't come over, can't we go over? The creature in the dragon chariot asked in a muffled voice. No. The yaksha creature quickly stopped and said, on the other side of the space crack, there is the aura of the emperor permeating the air. I suspect it is an emperor formation or other emperor level means. The creatures in the Tianyuan realm are cruel and easy to kill. If they come across the realm, I am afraid that our realm will fall into boundless disaster. The creature in the dragon chariot said in a deep voice. Over the years, according to ancient records, many people in this world know that Tianyuan world exists, and everyone similarly believes that Tianyuan world is a very terrifying world. If you don't provoke the most dangerous world, okay. If you provoke someone, you must beat him to death with a stick. Otherwise, you will be in danger in the Zixuan realm. We in Zixuan realm are in a glorious world, and I don't know what the emperors think. If we let such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity pass. The creature in the dragon chariot didn't finish his words, but the implication was already obvious. If they don't take action when they are strong, When the Tianyuan world becomes strong, they will be the ones destroyed. I heard that Emperor Mon is already preparing to cross the border. The Yaksha creature thought for a moment and said, although the space crack in Zhentian ancient city can be passed through, according to ancient books, the other end of this space crack is a dry and silent world. There is boundless darkness everywhere, and it is easy to lose your way. In addition, there is still the aura of the great emperor permeating the air. No one can guarantee whether there is an emperor on the other side. What if he just rushed over, is unfamiliar with the place, and has not yet figured out the situation? He is attacked by a Tianyuan realm great emperor. Change it to no one can benefit. Therefore, they plan to open up a new road. Oh! When the creatures in the dragon carriage heard this, their eyes suddenly lit up and they said in surprise, is Emperor Mon ready to avenge that ancestor? If this is the case, I would like to be a pioneer and come to the Tianyuan world. Don't worry, it will take some time, but it probably won't be too long. Yaksha creature comforted. Not everyone can open a space crack. It is as powerful as Emperor Mon, and it takes a lot of effort. And after it is opened, God knows where the crack is. What if it opens? What to do if you are at the door of a great emperor's house? Wouldn't it be better if one comes out and the other is killed? More seriously, if that great emperor comes along the cracks in the space and kills him, it will be great fun, and then the entire Zixuan realm will be in danger. There is too much gambling involved. In the final analysis, they have never been to Tianyuan world. They don't know how that world is divided. If there is a map, they will not blindly open up space passages. Tianyuan realm is not weak, but relying on the words of Emperor Mon alone may not be enough. The creature in the dragon carriage frowned, as if thinking of something, and said aloud, rest assured. The Yaksha creature glanced at the soldiers behind him and said, once the space passage is stabilized, how can I, the lord of Zhentian city, sit idly by and ignore it? With our Zhentian ancient city and our billions of foundations, once it comes to the Tianyuan realm, not many forces can resist it. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 225. The Sea of Chaotic Stars. The universe is endless and the star field is endless. This is an empty world, dead silence, nothing, no distinction between up, down, left and right, as if it is a zone of chaos. It was dark everywhere. Occasionally, there are a few lifeless stars dotted among them. The entire universe is filled with terrifying silence, bone-crushing cold, and vast darkness that keeps coming with no direction. After flying inside for a long time, a person doesn't even know whether he is moving forward, backward, up or down. There are very few reference points here, and it may even give people the illusion that they are always standing still. Lu Changhe stepped into the chaotic star sea alone, and rushed in without hesitation with the hope of the entire Deluo sword sect. Just started. Several other great saint-level figures, coveting the information in his hands, also pursued him. But it didn't take long before he was completely dumped. When comparing speed with sword cultivators, those people are still far behind. Even if they practice for a lifetime, they may not be able to catch up with him. In the chaotic sea of stars, once you lose your way, only God knows whether those people can still get out. After getting rid of those people, it was impossible for Lu Changhe to say that he was unhappy, but he was walking forward in the dark for 2 or 3 months. He was confused. There was nothing in front of him, just darkness. He almost thought he was blind. Even if I use a kind of pupil technique, it will still be pitch black in front of me and I can't see anything. Divine consciousness that is usually almost omnipotent. At this moment, it was also suppressed inside the body, unable to detect even a single trace. The space here seems to be infinitely large, but also seems to be infinitely small. It is large because it has no boundaries, and it is small because it is as if the whole person is covered by a black cloth. I can't see anything, I can't feel anything, it's so oppressive that it's almost suffocating. It's here. Time seems to have stopped and is no longer flowing. Stayed long enough. A person's Taoist heart may collapse, because time is the most terrifying magical power. People with a tough mind can endure 10,000 years and 100,000 years of loneliness. Can he endure eternal loneliness? Is this the chaotic star sea area? Lu Changhe was about to cry. Before, he was still thinking about why there is no route here. In this situation, what kind of route is needed? Just go in a straight line. Even if there is a bend, he doesn't know what it is. How long will it take? A jade slip appeared in Lu Changhe's hand, blooming with brilliance. This was probably the only light in the darkness, which made people feel excited. Thanks to the jade slip provided by the senior poster. Lu Changhe said in surprise. But then, he couldn't laugh anymore. Because his spiritual sense could not detect it, he could no longer check the contents in the jade slip. The smile that had not yet dissipated was frozen on his face. Old man, God wants to kill me. Lu Changhe held the jade slip in his hand and was about to cry without tears. The only function of this jade slip at the moment was to be used as a lantern, and it was a lantern with dim light. He took a deep breath, forced himself to stabilize his emotions, and after carefully recalling the contents in his mind, he confirmed that he had made the right move. Subsequently, his speed suddenly surged, and he rushed into the depths of the chaotic star sea. Deep in the chaos star sea, a man of medium height and clumsy face appeared. He walked in the darkness, his whole body glowing, blooming with billions of divine radiances, like a small sun, illuminating a radius of thousands of miles. Is this the immortal burial battlefield? Ling Xiao walked in the universe, his eyes scanning the surroundings. This is an ancient battlefield. I don't know how many years have passed, but it is still filled with tragic evil spirits, like a piece of Wang Yang, surging silently. Countless corpses, lying across the Chenzhou in the universe. Countless years have passed and he is still immortal. Some corpses still seem to be bleeding. Although he set off later, with the strength of the Quasi-Emperor, he was still one step ahead of Lu Changhe and arrived near the immortal burial battlefield. Without the guidance of my seniors, I probably would never have found this place in my life. Ling Xiao looked at the ancient battlefield in front of him and was extremely excited. He took a step forward to check the situation on the battlefield, but before he could get closer, an extremely terrifying killing aura came overwhelmingly. Facing him, with this murderous aura, Ling Xiao felt like a small boat in the endless Wang Yang. It could capsize at any time. Formation. And, still Emperor level. The expression on Ling Xiao's face changed. He took a solemn look at the battlefield, and he knew in his heart that an imperial war should have happened here before. The formation laid out by a great emperor is still immortal. And it is still quite intact. Is it the formation set up by Emperor Zhangfeng? Ling Xiao's eyes revealed a thought. Emperor Zhangfeng was a great emperor from the ancient times and left many deeds. The world only knows that he entered the sea of chaotic stars and never returned. The rest is unknown. Precisely because Emperor Zhangfeng did not go back, his descendants only mastered an imperial scripture, and a large formation, but did not have the imperial weapons as a foundation. Within a few million years, the descendants of Emperor Zhangfeng disappeared. In the torrent of history, his imperial scriptures have also become a mystery. Emperor Zhangfeng does not seem to be proficient in the formation of formations, and the formations used to protect his descendants do not seem to be emperor level. Ling Xiao recalled everything about Emperor Zhangfeng. He glanced solemnly at the void in front of him. Suddenly his pupils shrank. He reached out with one hand, grabbed a corpse, and looked at it carefully. This is not a creature from this world. Ling Xiao understood. He glanced at the battlefield and understood everything in his heart. This battlefield should be the creatures from another world that the seniors said had crossed over. Under the leadership of a great emperor, there are countless people in this other world. Came to this world. And in his own world, only Emperor Zhangfeng participated in the battle. With the power of one person, he could block thousands of troops and kill hundreds of millions of creatures here, and then fight for that emperor, and finally cross the border. The great emperor who came from the world rushed back. Although the great emperor went back, Emperor Zhangfeng also reached the end of his life. Emperor Zhangfeng, well. Ling Xiao sighed. No one in their world knew about this battle. If he hadn't come here, the whereabouts of Emperor Zhangfeng would still be a mystery, and no one would know his life or death. But Emperor Zhangfeng was nowhere to be found. Knowing this, he prevented a catastrophe for the world behind him. If Emperor Zhangfeng hadn't taken action, this world would have been in trouble. Ling Xiao said with emotion. The Chaos Star Sea can make the emperor lose his way back, but it is not absolute. Some emperors can still get out. The emperor who came across the border led countless people to come, and no one can guarantee that. Will he break out of the sea of chaotic stars? If he can't break out, the result will be the best. If he breaks out, it will be a disaster. Ling Xiao glanced at the battlefield and did not step too much into it. He murmured. If it weren't for the guidance of the senior poster, no one would have known about this battle. Today, the junior Ling Xiao, under the guidance of the senior poster, obtained the inheritance left by the senior Zhang Feng. In the future, this battle should be spread throughout the world, so that people will always remember the achievements of our predecessors. Then, he no longer lingered, and walked in the other direction according to the records in the Jade Slip. The distance of 30,000 miles. It is nothing at the feet of Ling Xiao, and he will be there in the blink of an eye. Quick! He saw a withered ancient star. It was very huge. From a distance, it looked like a continent, floating in the void. It was also covered with corpses. There is a dragon clan that stretches thousands of miles, like a great wall, lying on the ground. Even though it has been dead for countless years, it still exudes boundless evil energy. There are also unknown demon clans with huge bodies, as big as a mountain. Some of these races exist in the current world, but there are also some that even Ling Xiao has never seen before. They should be races unique to that unknown world. On this ancient star, after advancing a certain distance, Ling Xiaofei's pupils shrank. Ahead, not far away, a magnificent palace emerged. The palace was majestic and full of atmosphere. After countless years of baptism, there is no trace of vicissitudes. In front of the main hall, there was a figure in gray sitting cross-legged, with disheveled hair, and was dressed very simply. The robe seemed to have been washed white. He sat there quietly. But it is like a natural chasm, which is difficult for people to cross, giving people a feeling of looking up at a high mountain. As if sensing the aura of a stranger, the gray-clothed figure gradually raised its head, and suddenly opened its eyes. In an instant, it was as if the world had opened up. The heaven and earth shook violently, and chaos surged. The entire planet beneath his feet was trembling, as if it was about to collapse. An invincible fighting spirit rushed up into the night, seeming to have caused a sensation from heaven, covering the boundless starry sky in an instant. The spiritual consciousness cannot penetrate the body, but this power is extremely heavy and makes people breathless. This one. Ling Xiao trembled, and was shocked in his heart. He felt like he was in a divine land, like facing a god. This was a completely different aura from the Emperor of Tianji. You came. The gray-clothed figure stood up. The power of the great emperor spread in all directions, and the entire sea of stars seemed to be boiling. The few stars that were there were completely shattered into nothingness. Junior Ling Xiao, greeting senior. Ling Xiao didn't dare to neglect and said respectfully. The pinnacle of the quasi-emperor is only a thin line away from the great emperor. It must be a kind of fate to be able to come here. I have been sitting here for 50 million years, transforming here, before the last ray of soul completely dissipates. Finally, I've been waiting for someone who can pass on the Taoism. The figure in grey clothes muttered to himself, his eyes were not bright. He glanced at the boundless darkness and said with a hint of hope, when you become enlightened, I hope you can take my bones back to your homeland, and protect my descendants. This. Ling Xiao's expression froze. He didn't know whether he should say something or not. After a moment, he spoke. To be honest with the seniors, the juniors came here under the guidance of the senior Tianji building master, and the descendants of the seniors are now missing. On the contrary, it is the responsibility of the younger generation to bring the seniors back to their hometown. A great emperor fought for a world, and finally sat here. Ling Xiao felt that he should not deceive the other party, either emotionally or rationally. If it was discovered that he had concealed something, no one could guarantee what would happen next. What mishaps will happen? Is it? A hint of loneliness flashed in the eyes of the figure in grey clothes, and he said softly, eternity has passed so quickly, are my descendants gone too? Senior, don't worry, after Junior returns, he will definitely find his bloodline. Ling Xiao assured. As long as you have this intention. The figure in grey waved his hand and said, who is the master of Tianji that you mentioned just now? The one who can guide you to this place must be an enigmatic person. No one knows the true identity of the senior poster, but his strength, the younger generation has experienced it personally. He is definitely an ancient emperor whose years cannot be traced. Ling Xiao said with an embarrassed look. Is there such a person in the world? There was a trace of yearning in the eyes of the figure in grey clothes, and he said, I wish I could see him in person and sit and talk with him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 226. Ling Xiao was speechless. The senior Zhang Feng in front of him was in a very bad state. The real him has long since fallen. What is left now is just a wisp of obsession, not even a remnant soul. After explaining the funeral affairs, soon it will disappear with the wind. In this state, let alone going to Tianji Tower, there is a question mark as to whether we can even step out of the sea of chaotic stars. The paths to enlightenment are all different. You have the aura of the Yaoguang ancient emperor, so you must be a descendant of the Yaoguang Holy Land. At this point, you have already begun to embark on your own path. The grey-clothed figure looked at Ling Xiao, a hint of admiration flashed in his eyes, and said slowly, your path is quite similar to mine. This must be the purpose of the Tianji building master who guided you here. Although you cannot inherit all my teachings, some insights from becoming an emperor may be useful to you. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a kind of emperor's aura permeating the whole world, shaking the 9 heavens above and frightening the 9 nether worlds below. All things have spirits and must be surrendered. The figure in grey seems to be the will that dominates the heaven and earth. In the endless void, it hangs down immeasurably. The brilliance, one by one, hung in the sky like a waterfall. The body that was originally described as withered gradually became majestic at this time. There was silence in all directions. It seemed that there were infinite creatures, kowtowing in this direction, a grand sacrifice. The sound penetrated the long river of time and returned from the past, shocking people's hearts. Emperor Zhang Feng's eyes fell on Ling Xiao. He raised a hand, pointed out his fingers, and fell on the center of Ling Xiao's eyebrows. Infinite brilliance came out. Ling Xiao was completely rapt. Thank you, senior. Ling Xiao felt the sudden extra memory in his mind, and his expression was happy. Sure enough. According to the instructions of the senior poster, he got the opportunity to become an emperor when he came here. What he lacked was not the way of Emperor Zhang Feng, but Emperor Cheng realized. If he could learn from other people's insights, he was confident that he would become enlightened in a short time. Ling Xiao didn't have time to think too much, and quickly sat cross-legged on the ground. His mind was silent, and the aura in his body began to rise at a speed visible to the naked eye. As for Emperor Zhang Feng, after conveying his own insights, his figure turned into feathers of light and completely disappeared between heaven and earth. Behind me, there is still a big world that exists with profound knowledge. You need to be careful. The old words echoed between heaven and earth. This is the last trace left by Emperor Zhang Feng in the world. The other side. In the eternal darkness, Lu Changhe is groping forward. Suddenly, a burst of bright light struck, and the sky and the earth were ablaze. He had no defense and was almost blinded by the flash. Then there was a terrifying coercion that fell from the sky and knocked him down. What happened? Lu Changhe's heart palpitated. He quickly turned around and looked in the direction where the light came from. He was suddenly stunned. In the distance, he saw a real dragon soaring into the sky, an immortal phoenix circling, Suanwu opening the way, and a streak of auspicious colors. The divine brilliance of the Dao fell down and turned into a boundless Wang Yang. Among them was a figure that suppressed Tianyu, standing with its head held high. Even from a very long distance, he could be clearly seen. At this moment, the entire sea of chaotic stars was shaking, and the Dao was shaking. Sympathy gave birth to endless visions, covering the sky and the sun. Emperor! Lu Changhe said in disbelief. What kind of opportunity did my senior give me? He was puzzled. Didn't he agree that there was only one broken imperial weapon? Why did a great emperor come out? Could it be that this great emperor built the cave next to the immortal burial battlefield? If so, he would go and look for it. Isn't it equivalent to taking something from the nose of a great emperor? This is too exciting. Just when Lu Changhe was thinking about whether to go to the immortal burial battlefield or not, this great emperor the aura came and went quickly. It didn't take long before it disappeared. When the emperor's aura disappeared, a different kind of coercion began to gradually spread. It surpassed the quasi-emperor, but was not the great emperor. The aura the growth is very fast, which makes people feel palpitated and unable to resist at all. It is extremely scary. Is that great emperor in nirvana? Lu Changhe guessed in his mind. He glanced at the direction from which the breath came, and then looked at the immortal burial battlefield that was already close at hand. He gritted his teeth and quickly rushed into the immortal burial battlefield. It's already here. That's it? He couldn't bear to leave like this and lose all his previous efforts, so he had to give it a try. The first time he entered the immortal burial battlefield, like Ling Xiao, he also encountered the great emperor killer. The formation. But the difference is that he has mastered the method of breaking the formation. In the killing formation, he is extremely calm, dodging the killings everywhere, and quickly goes deep. Even the dense corpses around him are selectively ignored by him. Yes. The seniors have said that this is a battlefield. It is only reasonable that some corpses appear on the battlefield. After going deep into the immortal burial battlefield, I don't know how long it took, before I saw a 3-foot green sword lying across the universe. It is dull and rusty. It seems to have lost all its power. But such a long sword is filled with a very weak imperial power, like the breath of life, as if it is breathing. Is this the imperial weapon? Lu Changhe's eyes lit up, and he slowly came closer. Only when he got closer did he fully see the original appearance of this imperial weapon. On the sword, a tragic aura filled the air, like a surging tide. There were two completely different imperial powers. Intertwined and condensed together, it makes people's hearts tremble. It has the power to destroy everything. The rust on it is not rust at all. It is the blood of a great emperor. This means that the 3-foot-long sword in front of you once cut down live a great emperor. I see. Lu Changhe understood. From the outside, the imperial weapon in front of him is not defective at all, but the emperor's essence and blood on it keeps corroding the imperial weapon. Countless years have passed. The power of this imperial weapon has been greatly reduced. If the above emperor's essence and blood can be wiped away, there may be a chance to reproduce the full power of this imperial weapon. It seems. There was a hint of pain in Lu Changhe's eyes, and he murmured, after we go back, we have to gather some resources and go to the Tianji Tower. With their methods, these emperors' essence and blood will definitely not be wiped away. The only one who can do this is the emperor. But now, it seems that the only great emperor in this world is Master Tianji. When Ling Xiao and Lu Changhe each got their chance. Zixuan realm. In the ancient city of Zhentian. The creature with wings on its back and an appearance like a yaksha stood quietly. Next to him, the creature in the dragon chariot was also motionless. Both of them were waiting for the news that Emperor Moun had successfully broken through the boundary. During this time, since I have nothing to do, I might as well study the space passage in front of me. How powerful is the Tianyuan world to allow a great emperor to suppress the space passage for nearly tens of millions of years? The creature in the dragon carriage spoke. There was a hint of confusion in his voice. He was certain that in such a long time, the emperor's breath had never stopped on the other side of the space rift, and he would never be the same person from the beginning to now. Great emperor. How wealthy does one have to be to allow great emperor to stay here? Maybe it's not the great emperor, but maybe it's a great emperor killing formation. The yaksha creature spoke. But no matter which one it is, it's not us. Before he finished speaking, his expression suddenly changed, and he quickly turned around and looked into the space passage. Deep in his eyes, an incredible look flashed past. Wrong. Yaksha creature shouted coldly, his eyes bloomed with divine light, and he looked towards the other end of the space passage. What he saw was that in the space passage that was originally filled with terrifying aura, there was no trace of the aura of the emperor, as if it had never existed. What's wrong? The creature in the dragon chariot asked. The aura of the great emperor at the other end of the space passage disappeared. Yaksha creature said solemnly. The disappearance of the emperor's aura may not be a good thing. It is very possible. The creatures in Tianyuan world suddenly thought of the existence of Zixuan world and planned to cross the world. They were thinking about others. Who can guarantee that the other party is not thinking about you? Do you want to inform all the emperors? The creature in the dragon chariot said solemnly. The cross-border crossing of foreign creatures is a big event and cannot be blocked by them. If the opponent is prepared, he will definitely attack with all his strength. When thinking of all the horrors in the Tianyuan world, it can be foreseen that this is a world full of cruelty. All races are fighting each other, just like raising poison. Everyone who can survive is the best among their peers. It is far from what they can resist. Already notified. A token in the hand of the yaksha creature lights up. It depicts a man in imperial robes, with a majestic appearance, suppressing the world. His boundless power shines through from the token. It almost shatters the sky. However, before the emperor arrives, I plan to go over and take a look at Tianyuan world to see what their plans are. The yaksha creature took a deep breath and said in a deep voice. Only when you know yourself and the enemy can you be victorious in every battle. When someone comes over and is thinking about how to deal with it, it will be too late. I will go with you. The creature in the dragon chariot said without any hesitation. No. Yaksha creature shook his head, glanced at the space passage, a trace of fear flashed in his eyes, and said, you are here to meet me. Crossing the border is not a child's play. Let the soldiers pass. They may be squeezed into pieces by the terrifying pressure as soon as they enter the space channel. As for letting the emperor pass, it is not realistic. Although Zhentian ancient city has a profound heritage, it is far from reaching the point where a great emperor is sitting in charge. After all, it is not that world, and everyone is as wealthy as the Tianyuan world. There is a great emperor guarding the space passage all the time. Who can bear such a boring life? At this time, in the hearts of every creature in the Zixuan realm, it is assumed that the Tianyuan realm is stronger. And they themselves are just defending and counter-attacking. Instead of sitting back and waiting for death, it is better to burn the war to the Tianyuan realm, not to kill a few great emperors, as long as press down a few of the younger generation to death and let them develop faults. Then the Zixuan realm will have a chance to breathe. If I cannot return, it will prove that in the other world, there are people at least quasi-emperor level in front of the space channel, watching with eager eyes. You must inform the emperor who is coming soon about this news. The Yaksha creature said resolutely, with an expression as if he was looking forward to death. Do not worry. The creatures in the dragon carriage also knew the seriousness of the matter at this moment and nodded heavily. I leave everything to fellow Taoists. The Yaksha creature cupped his hands, took a deep breath, and then stepped into the space crack without looking back. Take care of yourself. The creature in the dragon chariot slowly spit out two words. A person in the late stage of the great sage is considered a giant in any place. No matter where he goes, he must be treated as a guest. But in the war between the two worlds on the battlefield, it is not enough to watch. In a battle of this level, the quasi-emperor and the great emperor are the eternal protagonists. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 227. The Sea of Chaotic Stars. Near the immortal burial battlefield. Boom. The immeasurable divine power is vast, and the edges of the universe are shattered. In the boundless universe, countless galaxies turn into smoke and dust, and a supreme aura spreads crazily. At this moment, thousands of people cry out, and in the sea of chaotic stars, there are lines of order. The divine chain has been suppressed, and a will belonging to a certain person is above it. The master of this will transcend everything, stand high, and look down on the entire Tianyuan world. What is this? In the emperor's killing array, Lu Changhe looked at the scene outside and wanted to cry without tears. Originally, he planned to take the broken emperor's soldiers and run away. But now it seems that there is little hope. As long as he dares to go out, this terrifying the pressure will immediately crush it into pieces. His early stage of cultivation as a great sage cannot withstand this pressure. The broken imperial weapon he just took, there is even a feeling of joy at the possibility of repairing it. In just a moment, it completely disappeared. Boom. The great emperor's calamity is spreading in the vast sea of chaotic stars. Extremely it split and surged in all directions, covering an unknown number of star fields, boundless. Under the emperor's tribulation, a will of the great emperor's level has been completely revived, possessing boundless divine power that makes people's hearts tremble. This is becoming an emperor, not nirvana. Lu Changhe's heart trembled. Although he has never become an emperor, he still knows some records about the emperor. If he achieves nirvana, he will be reborn and become the emperor again. There is no need to survive the tribulation. Only reincarnation and rebuilding, and only those who have just become emperor need to survive the tribulation. Who wants to become emperor? The thoughts in Lu Changhe's mind were racing, and characters flashed through his mind. The quasi-emperor of the Ye family? Or the quasi-emperor of the Golden Crow clan? It can't be Meng Qingzi, right? Or Ling Xiao? Among the four people, anyone can do it. Become the emperor, but he does not want Meng Qingzi to become the emperor, because if Meng Qingzi becomes the emperor, their Deluo sword sect will be completely gone. It is also possible that there are others. After all, in today's world, only these four quasi-emperors have come out, but no one can say whether there are other quasi-emperors who are still hiding. Lu Chang, he murmured to himself. Boom. The heavenly catastrophe shook the world, overwhelming everything, submerging the endless void. The entire Emperor's killing array was roaring, as terrifying as the world was being destroyed. The thunder rumbled, the chaotic energy surged, and the blazing electric light flew, each one like a blue dragon. Generally huge, spanning the infinite star field, it is shocking. Is this the great Emperor's tribulation? Lu Chang, he looked at the formation next to him, and after confirming that there was no power of collapse, he felt a little relieved. Not long after, another surprise arose in his heart. The calamity of becoming an emperor has been known to the world for all eternity as extremely terrifying, but how terrible it is. No one can say how terrifying it is except the emperor, because no one has seen it up close. Even if someone was treated like this, I could not find anyone else for tens of millions of years. If you can understand some of the mysteries, you will not be able to find another person in the future. I dare say he will become an emperor, but it is not impossible to take a step further from the realm of a great sage. Boom! The endless sea of thunder fell, and every level was extremely terrifying. In the sea of thunder, there was a man of medium height, with disheveled hair, standing tall. His pair of divine fists shattered the void, fighting for the heavenly tribulation, and fighting against the thunder tribulation. Dark red his blood, with the power of the great emperor, is scattered in all directions. Drink! A cold shout came out, and the sound shook the world. The man rose into the sky, like a god of war, breaking through the confinement of thunder and driving into the depths of the calamity cloud. The terrifying sound wave cut through most of the chaotic star sea. Yes, Ling Xiao. Lu Chang, he was stunned. The scene just now was like a sudden moment, but he still saw it. He was sure that the person who overcame the tribulation was Ling Xiao. How could it be him? It's not that Ling Xiao can't become the emperor. But now Ling Xiao, there is no reason to suddenly appear in the sea of chaos stars. Is this person invincible? He traveled hundreds of millions of miles, attacked back and forth, attacked several sects, and now he ran to the sea of chaos stars to become the emperor. It's unbelievable no matter how you look at it. 3 days later, there will be thunder and punishment bursts, various beams of light are flying, and a figure in the middle is getting more and more terrifying. Its body is as if it is poured with divine gold. It can span the universe, strike at the 9 heavens, and suppress the 9 netherworlds. Every great emperor is a legend. At this moment, a new legend gradually begins. Ling Xiao became emperor. Lu Chang, he murmured. This is already a blessing. Ling Xiao and Luo Jianzong have no hatred or grudges, and they are still human beings. This is a blessing for their human race, and they can see the next period of time. The whole world, this is the era of the human race. Zheng. During the thunder tribulation, Ling Xiao flicked his fingers, and a sound like the clash of gold and iron came out, shaking the starry sky. The boundless thunder tribulation was completely broken, like the remaining clouds swept by the wind. Billions of miles of thunder tribulation were swept away. Ling Xiao stood erect. In the void, the energy and blood are overwhelming, the eyes are like lightning, the emperor's power is surging, and the boundless void seems to be unable to withstand this pressure. It is almost broken. Great Emperor! In a palace, a shocking voice came. The Yaksha creature looked at the figure in front of him, feeling as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. This Tianyuan world is exactly as he thought. It is really extremely powerful. There is a great emperor guarding the door every day. Before, what he guessed was the emperor killing formation. He was just lying to himself. When he came to this end of the space passage, he saw an emperor without seeing any formations. Just now, the aura of the emperor disappeared. In his opinion, this was extremely powerful. It may be that the 2 great emperors have changed shifts and let this one take over the responsibility. As soon as they take action, it is the two great emperors. This Tianyuan world is too strong. If they really fight, can the world behind them withstand it? A creature from another world. Ling Xiao stood in the void, his eyes opened and closed, incomparably indifferent, and his eyes fell on a palace. The palace is just an appearance. And the portal in it happens to be connected to another world. A great sage is sent to spy on this world, can't you hold back any more? Ling Xiao doesn't have any good impressions of the other world. First he was reminded by the senior poster, and then he witnessed the fall of Emperor Zhang Feng. At this moment, he did not kill directly. He was very restrained. Go to hell. Ling Xiao spoke indifferently, stretched out one hand, and felt a little empty. Sonorous. There was an explosion. This blow shook ancient and modern times. It seemed that the long river of time was reversing. It penetrated the 33rd heaven and was invincible. Not good. Yaksha's hair stood on end. Faced with this blow, he couldn't think of any resistance in his heart, so he turned around and wanted to escape. But his speed was too slow compared to the great emperor's blow. Boom! The space passage was shaken. The Yaksha creatures were directly shattered into a cloud of blood mist. Then, the brilliance continued, penetrating the passages between the two realms, surging out, and appeared in the Zixuan realm. What happened? The breath of the emperor. What happened? How come there is such a strange aura of the great emperor? In the ancient city of Zhentian, countless people looked up into the void. Before they could react, a divine rainbow rushed out, condensing the power of godless God, which could destroy everything. It split the entire Zhentian ancient city into two, penetrated tens of millions of miles into the purple mysterious realm, destroyed several star fields, and then disappeared into thin air. Look around. A nearly endless chasm caught the eyes of countless people. The divine light just now came from someone unknown, but it appeared at the moment. Countless lives were wiped out abruptly. The entire continent beneath my feet seemed to have been cut through it. Everyone who survived by chance was terrified. Fellow. After a long time, a roar came out, the dragon chariot exploded, and a golden man stood in mid-air, filled with grief and anger. Just now, he noticed something was wrong for the first time. He hid behind the space crack and escaped the disaster. But the Yaksha creatures who had just entered the space passage were not so lucky. He was the first to die. At this moment, he was completely destroyed physically and mentally. Countless creatures felt uneasy in their hearts, thinking that in the next moment, there would be Tianyuan. When the great emperor comes to kill him. The end of the sky. There was a loud bang, and a black avenue paved over from a distance. The black aura like Wanyang filled the sky and the earth, which was extremely deep and breathtaking. There were immortals bowing their heads above, Luan and Phoenix soaring, and various strange phenomena. On the black avenue, a stalwart man stepped forward. Every step he took was like 100,000 ancient stars falling together, shaking the sky and the earth. His body was full of brilliance, shining for hundreds of millions of miles, and his energy and blood rushed into the sun and the moon. Majestic and powerful, flowing out is the rumbling black blood. It's Emperor Mon. Countless people were shocked when they saw the person coming. As if they saw the backbone, their originally panicked emotions were quickly suppressed. Meet Emperor Mon. Meet Emperor Mon. Meet Emperor Mon. Waves of sound surged and swept in all directions, shaking the stars in the sky as if they were about to fall. Countless people knelt on the ground. Looking from a distance, the darkness was almost endless. Emperor Mon stood in the void and pressed down slightly with one hand. Suddenly all the sounds disappeared at the same time. He glanced at the gap on the ground. Turning his head to look into the crack in space, he had a resolute face, his eyes lit up, and his eyes seemed to pierce through eternity, and finally fell on Ling Xiao. Zheng. Behind him, there was a long black knife with shocking murderous intent. A biting cold light rushed out, chilling through the past and present. It pointed at Ling Xiao from a distance, showing its murderous intent with actions. When I step into Tianyuan realm, I will kill you. The rich voice came out mightily, spanning the distance between the two realms, and echoed in the chaotic sea of stars. I'm waiting for you to come over. Ling Xiao responded. The two of them were separated by a world, but they seemed to be standing close together. The terrifying power surged in the space passage, causing the void to begin to twist. It seemed that the next second, there was a possibility of collapse. Soon. Emperor Moun's face remained unchanged, his eyes stared at Ling Xiao without blinking, his murderous intent undisguised. In the killing array, Lu Changhe had a confused expression on his face. What is going on? Who is Ling Xiao talking to? It sounds like he is a person of the same level, and he does not seem to belong to the current world. Could it be said that in addition to the blood demon realm, there is another great emperor who is coming across the realm? This is a cool rhythm. But I hope that the great emperor of the blood demon realm and this unknown emperor do not come at the same time, and I also hope that the senior master of Tianji and Ling Xiao can join forces to fight against them. Otherwise, a big disaster will happen in this world. Although everyone thinks that there are other great emperors in the world today, no one can say for sure whether there are any. What if there are not? Lu Changhe couldn't help but clenched the imperial weapon in his hand. In any case, in this kind of situation, in the face of a terrible disaster, our Dologo sword sect has a broken imperial weapon. It can be regarded as a bit of self-protection. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 228. You have just pointed a finger, and the war has begun, and the Tianyuan world will be destroyed because of you. Emperor Moun said in a cold voice with stern eyes and strong aura. Wrong. Ling Xiao shook his head and said indifferently, the war started 50 million years ago. Oh. Is it? Emperor Moun was neither surprised nor angry. He knew more about the emperor's past in his world than ordinary people, and he was also very clear about the emperor's purpose. It was just for conquest. It's a pity. He entered the wrong space passage. He entered a dark world and wandered there for thousands of years. He found nothing and even bumped into a great emperor. As a result, his elite troops were destroyed, and even he had difficulty escaping. When he came back, he sat down and passed away not long after. With the last experience, he obviously will not make low-level mistakes again. The role of a space channel is too great. If you open it in the right place, it is fine. If you open it in the wrong place, you will form a group to send warmth. Soon, I will come to Tianyuan realm. I hope you will still be so confident then, the new emperor of the Tianyuan world. Emperor Moun said in a deep voice. His tone was aggravated by the word new emperor. From his perspective, it was not difficult to see that Ling Xiao had just become the emperor, but even so, he still had no intention of going there. Ling Xiao beheaded him. Because he didn't know if there was anyone behind Ling Xiao. At the same time, he was also worried about whether Ling Xiao would take action after entering the space passage. If he did, the space passage would be shattered, and he would also will be exiled into the chaotic space. At that time, it is not certain whether he can come back. I also hope that you can still be so confident after coming to this world. Ling Xiao opened his mouth, his tone was quarrelsome. Snort. Let's wait and see. The great Emperor Moun snorted coldly. His voice was so domineering that it shook the world. The universe roared and spread to all domains. The endless monks trembled when they heard it, and their energy and blood resonated. He raised one hand, and a symbol flashed in the palm of his hand, blooming. 10,000 rays of light were printed on the cracks in space. Emperor Mon did not choose to take action. Although the opponent was the new emperor, he could not be defeated with one move. Instead of doing useless work, it was better to temporarily seal the space channel. Boom! There was a loud noise. The space passage was sealed, and the aura of the great emperor circulated, blocking anyone who wanted to cross the border. Great Emperor! The 2-foot-tall golden man was very puzzled when he saw this scene. In his impression, Emperor Mon was extremely domineering. Why didn't he take the initiative and seal the spatial rift instead? In this way, although the people on the opposite side dare not come over, wouldn't it be impossible for me to get through? How can I avenge my fellow Taoist? This space channel is no longer of much use. The great Emperor Mon stood with his hands behind his hands and glanced at the broken ground below and the countless severely injured monks. His eyes opened and closed, and his murderous intent shocked the world. But I have recorded today's revenge for you, and I will make sure you repay it when you come to Tianyuan realm in the future. Emperor Mon said indifferently. Great Emperor, is the matter of reopening the space channel about to be completed? The golden creature asked excitedly. Great Emperor Mon did not answer. He looked over with his eyes, like a mountain, pressing on the other person. For a great saint-level figure, answering one of his questions by yourself is already a great honor to him. If you have questions, you must answer them yourself. Do you still need an identity? Not to mention, when will a space channel be completed? This is a major event that affects the entire world. Don't be surprised, Emperor. This junior is a close friend of the Lord of Zhentian ancient city. We have been close friends for many years, but were killed by the Emperor of Tianyuan realm. This junior feels dissatisfied, so he wants to join the Emperor's command. When the great Emperor opened the passage between the two realms, the younger generation was the pioneer and took the lead in entering the Tianyuan realm. The golden creature said in a deep voice. Can. After a moment of silence, Emperor Mon slowly uttered a word. A great saint is still very rare. If he voluntarily obeys his orders, few emperors will take the initiative to refuse. My subordinate, Yuan Ye, pays homage to the emperor. The golden creature was overjoyed. In the void, he fell down respectfully and shouted loudly. The sea of chaotic stars. Ling Xiao stood in the void, with auspicious energy surging around him, fairy light overwhelming the sky, chaos like the sea, surrounding him, and the power of the emperor filling the sky and the earth. He looked at Emperor Mon and sealed the space passage without choosing to break it. But he didn't choose to leave either. After being instructed by the senior poster and bearing the will of Emperor Zhang Feng, I just slapped my butt and left. I had no loss at all. But this world is dangerous. No one is sure whether people from other worlds will come secretly. The only safe choice is to have one person guard this place all the time, and the person guarding the place cannot be too weak, otherwise, if something unexpected happens, the news will not spread at all. Right now, it seems that he is the best candidate. The hatred between himself and the 9 Nether Demon sect is not worth mentioning in front of all the creatures in the world. And he can still take advantage of this period of time to sort out his own way and create an imperial scripture of his own. As for, he had never thought about completely destroying this space passage. Others had already opened the way, and he would destroy it himself, and he would like to step into the purple mysterious realm in the future. Don't you have to open it yourself? In this way, not to mention it is time-consuming and labor-intensive. I still don't know where it will be opened. How can there be a ready-made one that will save trouble? This is also the reason why the ancient emperor of Taisha did not destroy the space passage after destroying the creatures in the blood demon world. Every great emperor wanted to visit the other world. Just in case. In another world, what if there is an opportunity that can take me further? Others can't come here. The emperor of their world has been thinking about how to control a world for their own use all day long, and now they have it ready-made. Only a fool would break the space channel. Ling Xiao turned around and his eyes fell on Lu Changhe across a distance of tens of thousands of miles. This glance immediately made the latter feel nervous. The junior Lu Changhe met Ling Xiaoqian, Great Emperor. Lu Changhe saluted respectfully. You return quickly and bring back the news that this world will be invaded by alien creatures. Ling Xiao said calmly. The foreign creatures had just spoken and were coming soon. Since he dared to say such words, he must have opened a space passage in other places. As for where the portal will appear, he said no. Okay. But it's better to prepare early than to be caught off guard. Junior, obey. Lu Changhe opened his mouth and said. Go ahead. Ling Xiao waved his hand. He was not surprised at all when Lu Changhe appeared here. After all, he entered the Tianji Tower a little later than Lu Changhe, and knew that the other party had been to the Tianji Tower before. Now that the other party appears here, look at Lu Changhe with the imperial weapon in my hand, everything is clear. Yes. Lu Changhe opened his mouth. He glanced at the imperial weapon in his hand and breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, this senior Ling Xiao was considered a member of their right path and would not try to snatch the imperial weapon in his hand. If it were a demon clan, the Great Emperor, or the Great Demonic Emperor, Lu Changhe might be ready to cry at this moment. When Lu Changhe returned in the Tianji Tower, Li Yun sat on the chair, glanced at the system panel, and said in surprise. Ling Xiao became emperor. The speed was quite fast, and he seemed to be facing off against an emperor from another world. Li Yun stood up, his eyes thoughtful. He had left countless means on Ling Xiao. It can be said that every move of Ling Xiao could not escape his control. Now that Ling Xiao has become the emperor, it is a reminder. If he makes a list, the list of future emperors seems to be pretty good. If Ling Xiao does not become emperor, he will definitely be on the list. When he becomes emperor, the authenticity of this list will be enough to shock all living beings. It's a pity that he only remembered it after Ling Xiao became emperor. He lost the golden name of Ling Xiao, but relying on the reputation of Tianji Tower, once the list is thrown out, he should still be able to inspire others. When the time comes, he will following the current trend. The news that Ling Xiao has become emperor is being released. Among the other quasi-emperors, who can sit still? Why not rush to become emperor? For example, Meng Qingzi, he and Ling Xiao have such a hatred. When they heard that Ling Xiao became emperor, since I can't become emperor in a short period of time, why should I go crazy and buy an opportunity? And I only need to sit in the Tianji Tower and lie down to make money from the resources. He can also spread the news about the invasion from another world. This way, the other quasi-emperors should be more motivated. It seems to be very interesting. Li Yun nodded in his heart. System, help me check, who has the highest potential to become emperor in the future. Li Yun spoke in his heart, but before he finished speaking, an old man in black strode into the Tianji building. The first time he entered, he bowed and saluted. Xie, the Nine Nether Demon sect, has met the senior master of Tianji Tower. Hearing the voice, Li Yun temporarily stopped checking the list, turned around, glanced at Xie, and said calmly, "Are you here for Ling Xiao?" "Yes." Xie nodded directly without any hesitation. Not long ago, Ling Xiao stepped into the Tianji Tower. He thought that Ling Xiao wanted to buy the formation-breaking method of the Nine Nether Demon sect, so he sent a message to remind everyone in the section. For a time, the entire Juyu Demon sect was in a trembling state, and everyone was on guard. However, after Ling Xiao left Tianji Tower, he did not go to the Nine Nether Demon sect, but disappeared directly, which made him very puzzled. Now, Ling Xiao is like a huge mountain hanging over the head of the Nine Nether Demon sect, which may fall down at any time. Unable to determine Ling Xiao's movements, they cannot relax. They have been tortured for a long time. After that, he finally came to Tianji Tower under the instigation of Yang Qiu, the leader of the 9 Nether Demon section. A little money can always buy peace of mind, right? Just in case, is Ling Xiao dead? This junior would like to ask the senior poster, where did Ling Xiao go? As he said that, Xiakan took out 2 holy level spiritual grasses and placed them in front of Li Yun. Li Yun glanced at the 2 spiritual grasses. Originally, after all, Ling Xiao was also a great emperor, and his whereabouts were absolutely top secret. Not to mention 2 holy level spiritual grasses, even 20 were absolutely impossible to buy. It's a pity that he plans to release the news about Ling Xiao's becoming emperor soon. And when Ling Xiao became emperor, there was Lu Changhe beside him. In this way, the value of the news has depreciated. Even if he didn't tell it, after Lu Changhe returned, he would not hide the news about Ling Xiao becoming emperor in order to discuss the Juyu demon sect. There are still 2 holy level elixirs available for sale right now, which can be considered an unexpected blessing. The Sea of Chaotic Stars. Li Yun put away the elixir and said directly, "You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 229. Chaotic Sea Area. Xiakan's face froze, and he had a bad premonition in his heart. This place can be said to be the secret realm exclusive to the Quasi-Emperor and the Great Emperor. There are countless opportunities in it, and there is the possibility of becoming an emperor. Why is Ling Xiao going to the Chaos Star Sea at this juncture? Thinking about it with his toes, he guessed more than half of it. In addition, Ling Xiao came to Tianji Tower first, and then went to Chaotic Star Sea. Xiakan felt even colder in his heart. Juyu Demon Sect, this is the time to finish the game. Senior. Xiakan thought for a long time and slowly said Ling Xiao came to Tianji Tower before, but to buy the opportunity to become emperor. The words fell. At the right time, he took out 4 holy medicines and placed them in front of Li Yun. He felt a little uneasy. He didn't know if he could afford the 4 holy medicines for such precious news. Clinker. Li Yun put away the holy medicine, nodded, and said without concealment yes. Ah! Xiakan seemed to be struck by lightning and froze on the spot, with an aura of despair all over his body. Ling Xiao is naturally talented. In the realm of the Quasi-Emperor, he could withstand the Emperor's blows and was injured, and even fought against Meng Qingzi and severely injured him. Such an amazing and talented person. With the help of Master Tianji, Emperor Cheng almost has it in hand. That. Senior, when will Ling Xiao become emperor? Xiakan didn't give up and took out 4 holy items again and placed them in front of Li Yun. Do you really want to know? Li Yun glanced sideways at Xiakan. Xiakan nodded sharply and said resolutely, Junior wants to know, please let Senior know. They don't dare to think about preventing Ling Xiao from becoming emperor. Not everyone can enter the Chaotic Star Sea. The only news that is beneficial to them now is knowing when Ling Xiao will become emperor. Ling Xiao, he has become an emperor. Li Yunkan said. What? At this time, Xiakan was completely dumbfounded. He has become an emperor? How is this possible? Ling Xiao stepped into the Chaos Star Sea. Not long after, he has become an emperor. Doesn't it mean that the day of destruction of the Juyu demon sect has already come? Is it imminent? As long as Ling Xiao returns, their Juyu demon sect will have no way to survive. Don't panic. Li Yun waved his hand and said, you still have some time, Ling Xiao will not return in a short time, maybe your Juyu demon sect still has a chance of survival. For example, Meng Qing becomes emperor. This. Xie Khan's eyes lit up, then darkened again. How precious is the opportunity to become an emperor. You can imagine with your toes that Ling Xiao must have obtained such news with the millions of treasures from the heavenly demon palace. As for their Juyu demon sect, although they are rich now, it is impossible for them to take out everything. Although I made a lot of money before. But obviously, it is not worth enough to buy the opportunity to become an emperor. Only by destroying a force that is not weaker than the demon palace can we achieve this step. Thank you for your guidance, Senior. I will take my leave now. Xie Khan said without thinking. Despite all the calculations, Ling Xiao had already become the emperor. It was like the huge mountain above his head, suddenly turned into an ancient demon mountain. As long as it fell, the entire Juyu demon sect would be destroyed. People will be wiped out in a matter of seconds. Such pressure will almost make them unable to breathe. Li Yun nodded casually. Watching Xie Khan go away, he seemed to have seen that the entire Juyu demon sect was starting to become restless. The news that Ling Xiao became emperor would only be a shock to others. Then lie down and listen to Ling Xiao's instructions. But for the Juyu demon sect, it is no less than a disaster. System, check the highest possible future emperor, 10 people. Li Yun said in his heart. Since he is an emperor, he obviously cannot be like the previous list, where hundreds of people are on the list. Is it possible for people outside the top 10 to become an emperor? There is definitely. But the probability has definitely dropped off a cliff. No, it is almost impossible to become an emperor without unparalleled opportunities, understanding, and luck. And for those who meet these conditions, he will obviously not be outside the top 10. Even if he ranks 10 people at the moment, Li Yun does not think that, each of them can become an emperor. They are likely to become an emperor, and they will definitely become an emperor. There is a difference of about several galaxies between them. Ding. The 10 people with the highest probability of becoming emperor in the future have been successfully queried. First place, Yu Qingxian. Race, human race. Cultivation, early stage of celestial realm. Second place, Ye Kong. Race, human race. Cultivation, quasi-emperor peak. Third place, Shen Yun. Race, chaos Lu Wu. Cultivation, late saint stage. Fourth place, Ao Xian. Race, true dragon clan. Cultivation, quasi-emperor peak. Ninth place, Shi Qianhong. Race, soul race. Cultivation, quasi-emperor peak. World, soul world. 10th place, ancestor of the Golden Crow. Race, Golden Crow clan. Cultivation, quasi-emperor peak. Among the 8 peak quasi-emperors, there are also 2 aliens mixed in, not to mention Shen Yun, with strong bloodline. This Yu Qingxian is a bit interesting. Li Yun murmured. Except for the Heavenly Sin list and the Holy Lord list, she is on the rest. She is almost heading straight to the Emperor. It can be seen from this list. This person does not seem to need any chance. As long as you practice step by step, becoming an emperor is almost guaranteed. And she is also the only one on the list of geniuses. She has made it to the list where others cannot make it, and she still ranks first. Li Yun understands this very well. Is it possible for the people on the Tianjiao list to become emperors? There must be some, but their strength is too low. Except for Yu Qingxian, everyone's future is too long, and the chance of falling in the middle is extremely high. Because of this, unable to be on this list. On the other hand, Yu Qingxian and Chaos Lu Wu clan chief, it is almost impossible for them to fall. As long as they develop stably, the possibility of becoming an emperor in the future is half higher than that of some quasi-emperors. It is indeed the reincarnation of the great emperor. Li Yun sighed with emotion. When this list is released, he is almost certain that those on the list of geniuses will be desperate. How can we fight now? They have already defeated a group of quasi-emperors, and he is still at the peak of the reborn realm. Jumping and jumping are no longer on the same level. More importantly, Yu Qingxian's cultivation has also broken through to a big level. The gap is getting wider and wider. It seems there is no Meng Qingzi. Li Yun took a closer look and did not find Meng Qingzi's name. This is very embarrassing. People who have lived for such a long time rely entirely on elixirs to survive. From the system's point of view, his potential has been exhausted and he will almost become an emperor in this life. There is no hope. After all, if he can become an emperor, he doesn't know how many millions of years it has taken him to become an emperor. In his twilight years, he has begun to slip from his peak, and his energy and blood are declining. Thinking about becoming an emperor, the difficulty is doubling. 9 Nether Demon Section, have some condolences. Li Yun said softly. In this way, if Meng Qingzi wants to become emperor, he will have to double the price he has to pay. System, publish this list. Li Yun said in his heart. Ask the host to name the list. Hidden Dragon List. Li Yun thought in his mind, and then was rejected by himself. There really are dragons in this world. The people on the list, the Golden Crow clan, the Chaos Luo clan, the Soul clan, the Human clan, etc., are not weaker than the Dragon clan, and among them most of them are quasi-emperors. Comparing them to hidden dragons is too disrespectful to the Dragon clan. Let's go to the emperor's list. Li Yun said in his heart. The meaning of the reserve emperor should be understandable. Although the name is not pleasant, but the meaning is conveyed well, it is enough. As soon as the words fell, outside the Tianji Tower, a stone tablet rumbled up, shaking the whole world. In the deserted city, many people swept their spiritual consciousness over. Is this a new list? Many low-level cultivators in Dawang City are already used to it, but the older generation, especially those who have just arrived in Dawang City, are very curious. Almost in the next moment, dozens of terrifying figures appeared from all directions. He came and stood in front of the stone monument. The extremely terrifying aura stirred up, so that many low-level practitioners did not dare to take even half a step forward. Crown Prince List. A great sage from the Golden Crow clan stroked his golden beard, glanced from top to bottom, frowned slightly, and murmured, "There are only 10 people on this list, it's incredible." The senior poster has already made it very clear that the list of emperors means that there will be great emperors in the future. These people are all amazingly talented people. How can there be more of them? The great sage of the Ye clan said sarcastically. The first place is still Yu Qingxian. Who is this person? She is number 1 on the prodigy list of 10,000 races, and now she is still number 1 on the emperor crown list. The people behind her are all a bunch of old monsters. In the Ziwei Holy Land, a saint king took a breath of cold air. Just as he finished speaking, several displeased eyes looked over. Among them were the Golden Crow clan and the Ye Imperial clan, and his ancestor was described as an old man. No one is happy about the things. After glaring at the sage king of Ziwei Holy Land, others also looked at the list in front of them. Everyone was shocked beyond measure. The release of this list almost means, in the future, if anyone becomes emperor, it will be one of these people. Could this Yu Qingxian be the reincarnation of a certain great emperor? Someone muttered. In everyone's opinion, Yu Qingxian's strength growth rate is too terrifying. How long has it been? He has already stepped from the peak of the heavenly transformation realm to the early stage of the heavenly phantasm realm. Other geniuses of the same generation are still strengthening their strength. She is trying hard to survive in the realm of rebirth. Isn't she worried that her strength will grow too fast, causing her foundation to become unstable? It is said that Yu Qingxian lives in Kunlun ruins, which is a desperate place. Even if he is not the reincarnation of the emperor, he is probably inextricably related to the former emperor of Kunlun ruins. A certain great sage from the True Dragon clan said in a deep voice. If she becomes a saint, wouldn't she be able to become number one on the list of saints? Even if it's not, it should be not far off. This person's strength is so terrifying, if he can join our Tianqian sword sect, it will definitely be a good deal. Haha, Yuhang Holy Land, also want to recruit him into the section. The door of my palace of 10,000 demons will always be open to Taoist fellow Yu Qingxian. The genius of the human race, what does it have to do with you, the demon race? Aren't you afraid that after Yu Qingxian becomes emperor, he will smash your 10,000 demons palace with a slap? At a time when many people were talking about it, Xie Kun, who had just left the Tianji Tower and delivered the news, came over again. He squeezed through the crowd and came to the stone tablet and took a closer look. Time. The whole person was stunned in place. Where is my ancestor? Why is there no name of my ancestor on this? Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 230. Meng Qingzi's era was millions of years away from now. He could not become an emperor at that time, but now the possibility of becoming an emperor is too low. Someone shook his head and said, yes. A great sage echoed. Meng Qingzi has lived for millions of years. Logically speaking, he has a profound foundation, but he can't even defeat a junior, Ling Xiao quasi-emperor, which shows his strength. At that time, Ling Xiao had already withstood a blow from the Emperor of the Scarlet Flame Holy Land, and it was impossible for him to remain intact. As soon as these words came out, many people nodded in agreement. Meng Qingzi's record was a bit poor. In the eyes of countless people, becoming an emperor is simply more difficult than ascending to heaven. Historically, there have been many people who have reached the stage of quasi-emperor. But how many people will eventually become emperors? By the way, Ling Xiao is so powerful that he can't even get on the throne list. You must know that Ling Xiao withstood the emperor's blow and even defeated Meng Qingzi. With a seriously injured body, he was still able to destroy the heavenly demon palace. With such strength, it would be unbelievable if he could not become an emperor. The Saint King of Tianqian Holy Land said in a deep voice. It's a bit weird indeed. In front of the stone tablet, everyone was lost in thought. Some forces with quasi-emperors in charge even looked thoughtful. Some of them had heard their ancestors lament. Every quasi-emperor, regarding Ling Xiao's record, they were deeply impressed by such a character. Even if the master of Tianji ranked him first, they would not be surprised at all. What surprises them now is that Ling Xiao is not on the list at all. Ling Xiao has been to Tianji Tower once before. What do you think, will he become emperor? Some people speculated. No way. Many people have changed their expressions. This guess is a bit sensational. But if you think about it carefully, it is not unreasonable. After all, Ling Xiao holds countless secrets in the demon palace. He really wants to buy a chance to become an emperor, but he can't afford it. If so, the words of Emperor Ling Xiao. Immediately, many people looked at the Juyu demon sect with strange expressions. Maybe. Soon, there will be another sect in this world that will be expelled. It has offended the emperor and has not yet seen any force. It can see the sun the next day. The Ye Imperial clan. The aura is dense and auspicious, and the countless palaces are well proportioned, making it look like a fairyland on earth. In an attic, Ye Changming and Ye Chen sat opposite each other. Between the two of them, there was a piece of news, which was the list of crown princes just released by Tianji Tower. Ye Changming looked at it for a long time, and after a long time, he sighed softly and said, Chen'er, in fact, the second position on the list of geniuses of all races, not bad either. The first is Yu Qingxian, the second is the god of chaos Lu Wu clan, and Ye Chen is now ranked third. After looking at the emperor list, if Ye Chen is still allowed to fight for the first position, unless Ye Changming's head being squeezed by the door. This is no longer a gap that can be bridged by talent and hard work. A person who is as good as a master in cultivation can't catch up with other people on the Tianjiao list. Now he has stepped onto the emperor's list, overwhelming a group of quasi-emperors. Who can withstand it? It can be said that this Yu Qingxian, despite her early cultivation of Tianxiang level, has already booked the position of a great emperor in the future. Others are just like great emperors. But let's talk about a young emperor, then a middle-aged emperor, until he finally becomes an emperor. The kid understands. Ye Chen nodded bitterly. In fact, from the moment he lost in one palm, he had already understood that he and Yu Qingxian were not from the same world at all, and there was no comparison. Now that the emperor list has appeared, it has only confirmed that he guess. Chen you don't have to be discouraged. Based on the ancestors' view of Yu Qingxian, he once said that she should be the reincarnation of a great emperor. You have already widened the gap from the beginning. Ye Changming expressed comfort. Although it is rare for an emperor to reincarnate and rebuild his cultivation, it is not unheard of. As long as the obstacle of the mystery in the womb is overcome, subsequent cultivation will be as simple as eating and drinking. Becoming an emperor in the future is just the starting point. After the emperor, the realm they pursue is their pursuit. For countless years, one or two such things will always happen. They encounter it in this life, and they don't know whether it is good luck or bad luck. Father. Ye Chen nodded and said softly, my child plans to retreat to break through the current realm. Ye Changming frowned and said, Chen don't let Yu Qingxian disturb your mentality. Your top priority is to lay a solid foundation. You must know that only by accumulation can you make small gains. The foundation of the child is already very deep. Ye Chen said in a deep voice. Ye Changming looked at his son for half a quarter of an hour, and then sighed quietly. He understood that it was difficult to change what his son had decided. Although he explained it himself, Yu Qing estimated that the existence of Yu Qingxian still stimulates everyone on the Tianjiao list. It would be fine if they didn't know the existence of Yu Qingxian, but now they know. As the pride of Tianjiao, they don't allow themselves to be widened. Ye Chen poses, he waved his hands and said, in that case, just go into seclusion and break through. Your foundation is not much better than that of some descendants of the ancient gods. Breaking through a little early and breaking through a little late won't have much impact. Yes. Ye Chen stood up, turned around and walked towards his residence. After Ye Chen retreated, outside the Tianji building, the rankings on the list of geniuses of all races changed crazily. The holy son of Taishu, who was originally ranked 100 away, suddenly broke through. The strength reached the second place in the list of geniuses of all races. This position has not yet been popular. Lin Zhan of the Lin imperial clan also broke through the realm and squeezed out the holy son of Taishu. On the list of geniuses of all races, almost everyone, the rankings are changing every moment. The people guarding outside the Tianji Tower can be said to be dazzled. It's so exciting. Are these saints and saints playing a breakthrough competition? The peak of the reborn realm, which was all the same before, is in. It didn't take long for most people to enter the early stage of the heaven transformation realm, and even some people who were not on the list. Because they broke through quickly, they also briefly stayed on the list of geniuses for a while. At the same time, 9 Nether Demon Sect. Inside the headmaster's hall, Yang Qiu was dressed in a black robe and held the hand that conveyed the jade slip, trembling slightly. He read the message inside it several times to confirm that it was correct. My mentality completely exploded. How can this be? Why did Ling Xiao suddenly become emperor? I have not been in the position of leader of the 9 Nether Demon Sect for long, and I have not yet allowed the 9 nether demon sect to become bigger and stronger and achieve greater glory. In the blink of an eye, it has become the last term. If the 9 nether demon sect is regarded as a dynasty, wouldn't he be the king of subjugation? Ling Xiao went to provoke Senior. Why didn't Senior shoot him to death? Yang Qiu looked up to the sky and sighed. The water here was too deep, and he felt that he was a little unsure. Ling Xiao and the Senior poster must have reached some kind of deal. He wanted to ask about it, but because of the existence of the heavenly sin list, I am being stared at by the true dragon clan. Right now, I dare not go out at all. After stepping out of the 9 nether demon sect, I will definitely be hunted down by the true dragon clan. Since I can't go to the Tianji Tower, I can only, if you can think of a way, please inform the ancestor first. I don't know how the ancestor's injury is. Yang Qiu shook his head and sighed. Just as he was about to lift his feet, the jade slip in his hand lit up again, and there was another message on it. Is there any worse news than Ling Xiao becoming emperor? Yang Qiu said to himself. His consciousness penetrated into the jade slip, glanced at its contents, and he immediately had the answer in his heart. The answer is, yes. His ancestor has lived for millions of years, and in the eyes of the Senior poster, he became an emperor. The chance is negligible. Even saints and people in the celestial realm have climbed onto the head of the ancestor. How unnatural is this? Yang Qiu feels that there is nothing sadder than this in the world today. The enemy. He became an emperor, but his family backers were told that he could hardly become an emperor. This was a death sentence for their Juyu demon sect. You have to go and tell the ancestor immediately. Yang Qiu held the jade slip tightly and glanced towards the back mountain. His body turned into a stream of light and flew over quickly. On top of the black divine peak, a grand hall stood erect and blended into the mountain. Yang Qiu came to the hall and saluted respectfully. He said loudly, Headmaster Yang Qiu, I have something to ask to see my ancestor. Come in. Unlike last time, this time a response came quickly. Yang Qiu calmed down and walked into the hall. The interior was still empty and void. A majestic figure suppressed the past and present, sitting cross-legged in the void, lowering his head, his eyes fell on Yang Qiu. If you don't deal with the sex affairs, what are you doing here? The younger generation has something important to tell the ancestor. Yang Qiu said in a deep voice. The stalwart figure frowned and said displeasedly, the ancestor fought with Ling Xiao before and is still recovering from his injuries. It is inconvenient to see you. If you have anything, please tell me. Well. Yang Qiu pursed his lips, the jade slip appeared in his hand, and said in a deep voice, Junior just got a piece of news. I heard that Ling Xiao became emperor. What? As soon as the words fell, 7 figures appeared at the same time, each with supreme majesty, and their spiritual thoughts fluctuated like a raging Wang Yang, so mighty that the heaven and the earth moved. Among the 7 people, a coffin trembled slightly, as if the being inside would be lifted up in the next second. Yang Qiu, do you know what you are talking about? Becoming an emperor is not something to be trifled with. It is related to the life and death of the 9 nether demon section. Have you ever found out clearly? As soon as the 7 figures appeared, they each spoke. I heard that Ling Xiao became the emperor, and no one could sit still. Ling Xiao, who was at the quasi-emperor level, would seriously damage the vitality of their Juyu demon section if Ling Xiao, who was at the emperor level, came to kill them. Maybe there is no need to kill. Just a slap in the air and they'll be gone. This matter is the news that ancestor Siakon went to Tianji Tower to buy. It can be said to be absolutely true. Yang Qiu bowed and saluted. He was under great pressure, as if he was carrying 7 mountains on his back. A thin layer of sweat appeared on his forehead. He spoke again. Moreover, Patriarch Siekun also said that after Ling Xiao destroyed the heavenly demon palace, he entered the Tianji Tower just to buy the opportunity to become emperor. This. The seven figures looked at each other. They all saw the solemn look in each other's eyes. The news released by Tianji Tower is almost unmistakable. Ling Xiao may really be the emperor now. Ancestor Siekun also sent a message back to his seniors, saying that the senior poster had compiled a new list, called the Crown Prince list, and those on the list would all have the possibility of becoming emperors in the future. With that said, Yang Qiu handed over the jade slip in his hand. Click. Just when Yang Qiu handed over the jade slip, a gap suddenly opened in the old coffin. One of his palms reached out and grabbed the jade slip with 5 fingers. What's my ranking?